Nazi Germany came quite close to achieving an absolute dominance in Europe. With hindsight, we can see where it all went wrong for the Nazis. We see the best and worst strategic decisions made by Adolf Hitler, and we see how he could have won the Second World War. One of Hitler's most shocking mistakes was his complete inability to coordinate with the Japanese. His biggest blunder was of course the invasion of Russia, but it might not have been a failed campaign. The Soviets retreated east to avoid the Nazi invaders, but this would not have been an option if Japan had also invaded. The Japanese were in Manchuria. They could have simply walked across the Russian border, but Hitler didn't think he needed the help. He actually thought the Soviet Union was weak. He said all that was needed was to kick in the door and the whole Soviet building would collapse. Operation Barbarossa was the biggest invasion ever, but not big enough without Japanese involvement. Adolf Hitler almost never allowed his soldiers to retreat. It may sound counterintuitive to call that a mistake, but it really robbed the Germans of one of their most efficient tactics. It's called a tactical retreat, and involves a brief retreat before a sudden counterattack. It was demonstrated in the Battle of Normandy, in the Battle of the Bulge, and in the First World War. It's one of the reasons the German Empire was such a feared military power. But Hitler believed soldiers should never run away. And for this bizarre belief, tens of thousands of German soldiers died unnecessarily. And it's true that the Soviets also didn't allow retreat, but they were Soviets. It's different. One of Hitler's worst habits was how he treated his generals. For some reason, he would completely ignore the most experienced generals and only listen to those who repeated his own opinion. So strategy meetings were just white noise. On top of all that, he would not appoint officers according to their experience. He would appoint them based on their devotion to Nazism. So the military was controlled by maniacs. This may be why the Germans couldn't coordinate with the Japanese, as Hitler's generals believed Asians were inferior. By the Second World War, most Ukrainian people hated Stalin, as the Soviets had deliberately forced the Ukraine into famine. This gave Hitler the chance to unite with Ukrainians against Soviet forces. It would have been easy for him. Nazi soldiers were greeted warmly as soon as they entered the Ukraine, but instead of making allies of the Ukrainian people, he began persecuting them. Over 200,000 were taken for slave labor back in Germany. It was so bad that 4.5 million Ukrainians joined the Soviet army. So Hitler managed to unite millions to fight against him, millions who would otherwise have supported him. Adolf Hitler abandoned plans to invade Britain after losing the Battle of Britain, but he came quite close to winning. Towards the end of the battle, the Royal Air Force was on its last legs, with most of their planes destroyed, but Hitler ordered the Nazi Air Force to stop bombing them and bomb civilian areas instead. This gave the Air Force just enough time to remain operational and secure victory. Hitler thought bombing cities would scare the government into surrender. The dictator of Spain was a Nazi sympathizer on ideological grounds. Hitler attempted to persuade him to join the war. Spain was in debt to Germany for $200 million. Spain demanded this debt be forgotten in return for Spanish involvement. But this demand was too high for Hitler, and Spain never entered the war. Some Spanish troops did help with Operation Barbarossa, but nothing else came of it. If Hitler had been able to persuade the Spanish into entering the war, it would have created another huge obstacle for the Allies. With Spain's territory and military, the war could have been quite different. One of his big mistakes was just wasting time. The Nazis wasted time and money on all kinds of small ventures, one of which was searching for the Holy Grail. Hitler believed in the Holy Grail, and he sent people all over the world looking for it. He believed it would make him immortal. They never found it, so the whole thing was just a waste of time and money. The Nazis sent people on many more quests just like this, for ancient knowledge and superhuman abilities. So they were literally insane. Hitler should have focused more time on developing a nuclear reactor, and less time hunting legends. Adolf Hitler seriously underestimated the importance of naval warfare. For him, it was all about the army and air force. He should have produced more U-boats in preparation for the war. That way, he could have blocked supply ships from reaching Britain. One of Britain's great advantages was that she's an island, but that gave Germany the opportunity to physically isolate her. An opportunity wasted. Hitler realized his mistake after the war began, but by then it was far too late. My father always told me, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it seems Hitler really planned to fail. He didn't supply his military with winter equipment, as he intended to reach Moscow before winter. But he was aware of Russia's size, and their scorched earth policy, and the Russian winter. He knew how Napoleon was defeated in Russia. He just didn't think such a thing could happen to him. But it did though, and he was forced into a backup plan he didn't even have. That's why they lost the Battle of Stalingrad. They simply weren't prepared. Hitler's number one biggest mistake was the Holocaust. In killing 11 million people, he devastated his own workforce, so German productivity fell. It also forced most Jewish scientists to flee Germany. Many of those scientists helped America develop nuclear weapons. If not for the Holocaust, the Nazis may have developed nuclear weapons themselves. And that would have changed things.